Quick recap for anyone who missed the channel trailer. Hi, my name is James. I'm making this channel to serve as a documentary about my journey into game design, as someone who has no previous knowledge about the core elements of game design. So, if you're someone who is curious about making games, but don't know how or where to start as a beginner, or if you're just curious to see how difficult creating a game from scratch is, while being a solo dev with no prior knowledge, then you've come to the right place. I also just want to quickly say thank you for all the support I got on the channel trailer. I genuinely didn't expect it to get this much attention, especially since going into this, I wasn't even sure if anyone would care. In short, thank you, it means a lot to me, but enough of that. Let's get into the video. First things first, we need a plan for this game. Starting with, what type of game do we want to make? This part is usually pretty easy, because from what I've found, most people tend to have a game in mind that they want to try making, but if you find yourself in a situation where you don't know what kind of game you want to make, then just think about the types of games that you like to play, and pick something from along those lines. One quick thing that I will mention, because I've heard it from a lot of places, is to not make your dream game as your first game, and instead focus on making something smaller to build up your skills. If you're finding this kind of confusing, then here's an example. My personal dream game, aka the game I want to make in the future, is a story-driven JRPG that is turn-based while also having a dynamic combat system. Not exactly the easiest first project. So, what I'm choosing to make now is an action bullet hell roguelike with some small story elements. Sure, on the surface, it doesn't seem like there's that much crossover between the two. I mean, an action bullet hell roguelike is probably as far away from a turn-based JRPG as you can get. But once you break down both games to their smallest elements, there's definitely a bit of overlap, and it's through those small overlaps that you will later build up the skills to make your dream game. As for actually making the game, I figured the best way to start was by first making some basic assets, like a tile set for the floor and a placeholder character model, so that I could have an easier time making the movement and other core mechanics of the game. I start with a tile set. Now, if you're making a game yourself and you need to make a tile set, I would highly recommend these two videos that I'm putting up on screen and in the description, because they were a massive help to me. But as for my key takeaways, the first one is to have two separate files open while making a tile set. One that is the size of the tile that you are making, which in this case is a 16 by 16 pixels, and to have one that is significantly larger, like 128 by 128 pixels, to store all of your tiles. And the second takeaway is how to layer the brighter colors on top of the darker colors while making tiles. For example, if you're making a grass tile, like I was, you'd first draw out where you want the grass to go in a darker color. Then layer on blades of grass with a lighter color, and then just box off the top and repeat until you finish the grass. After that, you just fill out the bottom portion with darker colors and whatever color you want the dirt to look like, and boom, you're done. This final takeaway isn't something I'd recommend for finished projects, but since these are just placeholders until I can make something better, I copy-pasted and rotated the two pieces I made to fill out the rest of the tile set. And honestly, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Yeah, it has a little ways to go before it's game ready, but as someone who has never been good at anything art related, it feels good to have actually made something that looks like what I was trying to make for once. And then I got absolutely humbled by the character design. I'm gonna be honest, I was a little bit cocky after making the tile set, and figured making a character would be just as easy. It was not. It probably wouldn't have been that hard if I had actually planned out what I wanted the character to look like beforehand, but I didn't, so here we are. I ended up watching some videos on character design, and then playing around in Aseprite for a bit, trying some different stances and styles.
Was that the bite of 87?
But I ended up creating this. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but I also didn't want to get stuck in the art portion of game design, especially since I realized that this was supposed to just be a placeholder anyways. I don't really know what to say about this, other than I am definitely going to try and create some basic sketches before trying this again in the future. The last thing that I had time for this week was implementing my tile set and character into Godot, and making the movement, which, if I didn't mention it already, Godot is going to be the engine I'm using for this. Yippee! Implementing my tile set and character ended up being pretty easy, because all you had to do was make an art folder in the resources, and then drag your tile set and character into it. Hey, Future James here, so that was a lie. You apparently need to download an extension for Godot so that you can import your Aseprite art into Godot. So I chose this one, called Aseprite and Hey, Future James here again. I couldn't get that one to work, so I just installed Aseprite Wizard instead. Also, who knew that you needed to download your art as a PDF instead of just dragging the whole thing in? Not me. After that, I finished setting up my tile set and character model by attaching the necessary nodes, those being the tile map node for the tile set, and character body 2D, sprite 2D, and collision shape 2D for the character. Lastly, I just fine-tuned some settings because my pixel art was blurry, and then painted on a floor of tiles. After that, I followed this amazing video on making movement, which taught me how to make basic character controls with the input map, and then how to actually attach them to the character with this code. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. My version looks a little bit different from what he got, because his video also showed how to implement animations, which I don't have yet, but in the future, when I make them, I'll definitely come back to this video, because he explained them really well. As for the actual coding, it went relatively smoothly. Nothing went wrong. At all. That cannot be good. Well, if you made it this far, thank you for watching till the end of the video. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you liked or didn't like about the video, or if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. This week, I'm probably going to focus on creating the shooting, making health bars, and some basic enemies. So, if you're interested in seeing how that goes, make sure to tune in on Monday. Also, remember those thousands of errors I was showing you? That was all caused by one spacebar that should have been an underscore. Welcome to programming.